Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item is the regular monthly Chicago Executive Airport. From this month, it's Director Jim Kiefer.
Good evening,
Hi.
Jim.
Good evening, Mayor, City Councilman, Councilwoman, City staff. I'm lucky enough to be followed with my colleagues. Jamie Abbott is the Executive Director, Bill Kearns is the Director, and our new Chairman, Cord Harris. I have two goals tonight. One is to keep you informed of what's going on at the airport, and then we'll talk about the second goal. So we got a lot of good things going on at the airport. Our noise exposure map is updated, and we're in the final phase. On November 28th, Tuesday, you're all invited from 6 o'clock to 7:30 p.m. to join us in an open house at the Ramada Inn. And that is to get the community's acceptance and questions answered on the noise exposure map and find out what it means to them. Other things are going on. We're trying to build a U.S. Customs facility, a little more out of need by the Customs agency. So we're going out for an RFQ at our next meeting, and we're going to be interviewing construction managers. That RFQ is for the construction manager. We are also trying to combine a maintenance shop, an admin building, along with the U.S. Customs facility to try to get economy of scale out of it. Our new thing going on is our new airport website. It's now live. It's a lot more user-friendly. You can also, there's a section that you can, instead of calling in to Rob Mark, you can call in there for noise comments. And hopefully we can document, streamline our complaints from our residents, both in Prospect Heights and in Wheeling. Our next noise committee meeting is Wednesday, December 6th at 6 p.m. Everyone's invited. And my second concern tonight is we're trying to go through changes to the IGA, Intergovernmental Agreement for the operation of Chicago Executive Airport. Most of you are probably up to snuff on 4 or 5 of the changes that are kind of boring. But the one that comes to mind that we're getting the most questions about and concerns is the Section 5C. And the CEA board feels it is in the best position to appoint, remove, or discipline the executive director. And we're also cognizant of the fact that either municipality has plenty of sounding board. They have plenty of options if they don't think we're following through. I'm humbled to be appointed by Mayor Helmer and appointed or voted on by you guys. Hopefully you have enough confidence in your 3 members that sit on the board. Director Cloud is in the 3rd one. And we're trying to streamline the IGA. And if you read, what we're trying to eliminate is the redundancy of any negative action by us as a board and by the chairman that you might want to override us. There's a lot of ways you can override us. You appoint us, you can remove us. We talk on the phone, we talk on a regular basis. So we're always out there. We serve at your pleasure. We represent your city council. So the way it's worded right now, I don't want to call it the nuclear option, but if you don't think that we're doing our job properly, every 3 years in a period of 60 days, you get to intercede and kick us off the right of appointing a director. So it's not like you're being removed from the process. We just like to have the executive director know that his chain of command is through the CEA board. So it's open up for questions or concerns, reference that IGA. But you're also welcome to talk about the other changes, whether it's in just the legalist terms on some of the other issues. So I'm open for questions.
You brought up a few points I want to comment on. You had said, you used the term override, you guys. I don't think you meant, you mean that we have the ability to eliminate that role that you have in hiring or firing the airport manager. Not that we override the decision you make, we have the ability to revert back to the old language, is what you what you mean.
That is correct.
The other thing too, as far as, I've heard people say that this has to do with letting the airport manager know that they only have one boss, that they don't have to look to 3 different boards for their boss. If there's one thing that the airport has over either municipality, that's tenure. There's only been 3 airport managers since Prospect Heights and Wheeling have bought the airport. You definitely can't say that for the city of Prospect Heights when it comes to mayor or alderman or the village of Wheeling for village managers and trustees. I mean, they've churned many times since this airport was bought. So I'm kind of confused by this fear that there is that by having a provision that for a 60-day window every 36 months that we can invoke, which would just reverse us back to the old way to say that we're involved with that process. We haven't invoked it since it's been in, and there's been a window to do so. I don't even know that this council truly knew, and myself included, that that was really in there. So forgive me for, being a conspiracy person, but when you asked for this question, when you asked for this, and I thought about it, and it was explained to me, and I looked at it, I said, why is it coming to us? There has to be some other reason. I can't imagine that we've had, a 2-page legal opinion, and he's not a cheap guy to write a 2-page letter, your attorney for the airport board. I don't know what the fear is. Nobody's explained it. If all there is to it is what you've said, why wouldn't you trust this council to make the right choice to never invoke it?
I would say that, one, it's redundant as far as your ability to intercede. You have always, the question came up, have we ever questioned our vote? Or you've never came in and tried to override, and we appreciate that very much. And it's working great. We've got 6 strong board members. We now have a new chairman that's strong. And we just think it's legalistic and it's redundant. So.
It's not really redundant because they're 2 different paths. One path says that every 60 days, every 36 months for a 60-day window, if we want to or we think there's the need, we go back to the old way of saying the council's involved and Wheeling is involved with the selection or discipline or replacement of the airport manager. It's not redundant because it's not the same. It's not like we're saying that if we invoke that we go back and can undo a decision you made. They're very different paths. So it's kind of like a fail-safe, I see, for Prospect Heights to be able to say, well, yeah, we appoint our 3, but it's still not 51% if the council's on a different page than their airport board, which we're not right now, haven't been. But I still don't know why. I'm sure if I let our city attorney go through that IGA, we find a lot of redundant things. There's a lot of things in there that don't need to be in there or should be in there. So I'm always worried when someone picks something as obscure as that out, why it's being picked out.
Okay.
Could I help a little bit? And I don't know if redundant is the right word, but Pat, you've been around a while. You were involved on the council previously when we had an airport administrator that at times we wanted to remove, yes, and Wheeling did not, and then vice versa. And it became a political hot potato, so to speak. We don't want that to be the case. As you pointed out before, having an executive director serving 3 masters is a very difficult role, no matter what provisions we put in. And the fact is, this provision's been in here for 4 years, and as you already said, nobody on the council knew what we were talking about when we did this. So clearly, I'm not criticizing, you have more work to do on this council than you can handle probably in terms of reading. Why not let the people that are living this on a day-to-day basis handle those decisions rather than having that option to say, and I'm not even saying you're going to do it, but you guys get elected every couple of years or don't get elected, a new mayor comes in, and suddenly we think we should invoke that right because we don't think that's going on the right way, and now we're back to infighting between the 2 cities again. So we're trying to take a preemptive step and try to eliminate something before it becomes a problem. That's it.
No, I get it, but what if I'm gonna give you a scenario. Suppose this goes away. Suppose we vote to say, let's get rid of it. And a new mayor, a new council comes in and says, we don't like either of you guys or Betty. We're gonna replace you because we want to get rid of Jamie.
Okay.
Is that really a different path than invoking that ability to say, we want to go back to the old way? Because even by doing that, we can't hire or fire Jamie or discipline him because we're only 50%.
Right.
So even if we invoke the thing that you're afraid of, we can't do what you're saying that would be able to do by invoking it. So it's just odd.
But your chief concern seems to be, if I'm correct, there's a reason why, and I don't know why they're doing this, because it makes perfect sense not to have it in there.
No, let me be clear. I think it's a good fail-safe for us to have. I like having the ability to have a fail-safe option if we think that we need to do something. I wish we had that. I wish we had that on every IGA and every agreement we had where we could revoke something.
But you already said it really isn't a fail-safe because you can do that, but if Wheeling doesn't agree with you, you can't do anything.
That doesn't mean that we should give it up. Just because.
I understand. And we've had some of these discussions. So I think those are the only reasons why, we're trying to do the right thing by our executive director by saying, here, these 6 people on the board appointed by the city and the village control your career path, your future. You need to make sure that you're following the direction from them and not get into politics with village presidents, mayors, aldermen, the way it had happened in the past. So that's really why the provision was put in there.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Alderman Dolick?
Just to confirm, after this, the next time that could be changed is not until December 2019?
That is correct. From December 23rd through February 23rd, it's a 60-day window every 3 years.
Okay. The only other comment, and this is just a personal comment, for many, many years in my personal life, I've been a pilot. And though you use the word redundancy, and maybe that's not the word you want, but still, as a pilot, redundancy has always been seen as a good thing. And I agree, it's kind of like a fail-safe. I don't see it as redundant. I see it as a fail-safe. I don't see the problem of keeping that in there.
Using that pilot analogy, there's only one person that controls that aircraft, and that's you. And we take pride in how we run the airport. We live it every day, all the decisions, we read, we do our research, so we're in it 24/7. And so we just, would like to see it removed. But we serve at your pleasure, and if that's the only worries we have at the airport, we're not gonna lose sleep over it. So.
That's all I have.
Alderman Rosenthal?
I've been listening to the discussion, and since we began the discussion about this, and I have to admit that we are trying to address a problem that doesn't exist. And we're trying to create a problem in order to solve a problem, and we're trying to create then remediation procedures that, if we did this, would twist us more into bureaucratic red tape than we have now. I still, listening to all the discussion and the arguments, I cannot really vote in favor of that provision within the agreement.
All right, have I missed anyone so far? Chairman Harris? Are you ready to talk to us? Yes, I'm sorry. We have someone?
Yeah, I didn't know if you were going down the line still,
Oh,
to
I thought I
myself,
was done.
Norman Williamson.
I was falling asleep.
I'll wake you up.
Thank you. Go, Alderman Mesker.
I mean, one, I wanted to clarify, when this first came out,
I believe all the aldermen had the same opinion they have now, and we were told we had the wrong agreement. So there really wasn't confusion. We knew what we were looking at. We were told we had the wrong agreement, and then this new agreement came out, and it was the same exact thing we reviewed the first time. So I think we were all on board, knew what was going on. Someone just thought we had an incorrect agreement, but this is the same exact agreement we looked at the first time. And I echo Pat's thoughts exactly. I actually emailed that in correspondence to one of the aldermen. You have the right to appoint, remove, or any disciplinary action with respect to the executive director right now. We haven't exercised our right to reverse it, but that fail-safe, I mean, I think anyone that has an ownership interest in anything is going to want to have some sort of fail-safe, some level of comfort that if they don't think things are going right, that they do have the ability to control something that they have ownership in. And from a legal standpoint, I cannot vote to have that removed. I think that's the only change that any of us really aren't comfortable with. I can let the others confirm for themselves, but I think the rest of the changes we're fine with, but I think 5C, we want to remain as it is.
If I could, Alderman, when I was here before, I was told that we were trying to get authority we didn't have. So there clearly was some confusion the last time I was here. But it's fine, it is the same agreement, it's what we thought you had, but there was some feeling that somehow we were asking for authority that we didn't have to discipline and remove and hire and fire our executive director. So maybe I'm...
I know several of the airport directors have had conversations with other aldermen. I know I personally haven't spoken with you, but I mean, I looked at the original agreement, I looked at the red line, I looked at the clean, I made sure everything matched up. I mean, I review contracts and documents for a living, I work at a law firm. The language has always been there, you've always had the right, it's just the ability for us to reverse the right, you know, like I said, in a 60-month window every 3 years. And I can't see why that should be a problem being in there. Now, if for some reason we were switching it back and then we let you have the rights again and then we were, you know what I mean? And there was like this back and forth and it really was causing an issue, then I could see you maybe wanting to take it out, but it hasn't been an issue for the airport. I mean, you have the right, you still have the right. And I mean, like I said, just as an owner of anything, if you have ownership interest, you want to have some level of control, and this you know, is kind of like a safety failback for us.
Alderman Williamson?
Yes, just a couple of comments. You know, I obviously have the luxury of echoing the sentiments of everybody else that's spoken before me, so I echo them. But Director Kearns, you had made mention of the airport director is serving 3 masters. The airport director is not serving 3 masters. The airport director is serving at the pleasure of the airport board, who reports to 2 different entities, two owners. But the airport director works for you. And I believe that this leads to, you're trying to preemptively get rid of any micromanagement. And if we look back, how much influence do you guys actually receive from this board? I think on a day-to-day, you operate and have for quite some time without any interference from this council. Okay, we've got the utmost trust in you, but this fail-safe or redundancy or whatever you want to refer to it as is something that we're holding on to because it's not always going to be you sitting in that seat. It's not going to be Director Kiefer sitting in that seat or Director Cloud or Chairman Harris. I mean, it's ever-changing. The landscape is changing, and I think for that reason, this is the one thing we're holding on to. And you've asked for 5 different changes. We've said okay to 4 of them. We're holding on to 1. So with that, I'll end my comments. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Mayor, one more
Yes,
more
sir.
question. This has been in since the summer of 13, correct?
Correct.
Fall of December of 13. So we're at 4 years since it went into the place. Of all the things that are in that IGA, all the different provisions and things that we can and can't do, and you guys can and can't do, how in the world did you guys as a group one day come up and say, I'm asking this, I mean, we've been friends for a long time, this is not, I'm not laughing at it like I think it's funny, I'm just, how in the world did this get pulled out and picked as the thing that needs to be changed?
From what I understand, it was actually a recommendation from our attorney that all it can do is create problems in the future, so why not try to remove it? A reversionary clause that can be exercised every 3 years within a 60-day.
So, okay.
Yeah, so that's.
Let's agree it's a bad provision. Are you saying now, since the attorneys looked at it, you guys have spent countless hours on it, that IGA now is pristine? There is nothing else that you guys can come back to us for?
We're supposed to continually review and come back to you, you know.
Well, I know, but I mean, there's been a lot of capital put into getting this changed. I mean, capital amongst you guys coming here and trying to tell us. And could we ask Jamie what he thinks? Sure. Drag him up into this?
Jamie?
I know, it's not fair, it's not fair, don't answer, I'm just kidding. Right.
Let me hear from Chairman Harris, please.
If I counted correctly, there was not a good ratio, so I'm not sure I like these betting odds, but I don't think I can add anything other than what Director Kiefer and Director Kearns have said. 4 months ago, you guys appointed me to this board under less than ideal circumstances, and there was a lot of tension, and I can tell you that over the past 4 months, I've been very proud to work with them as a team to accomplish great things, and I think we have a very bright future. And on that note, you know, I would come in here and add 2 things. You know, we honored veterans earlier, and I served, and I was a captain, and I had people under my command, and my job was to set them up for success, to set my subordinates up for success. And I can tell you, coming in here as someone who is impartial, who did not take part in these provision recommendations were suggested before I came onto the board. I can tell you that I think this decision is not setting us up for success. I think there is discord with saying we trust you implicitly, but we're going to have a fail-safe. I don't think those are congruous. The second point I would make is, you know, I think you asked a question of, you know, why should we do this? And I think if we kind of look at it in a different angle, Wheeling has already approved these changes. Wheeling is reaching out 50% and saying, meet us halfway. We trust our directors to do this, and we are approving these ratifications. I said we have big things in the future coming up at this airport, and I truly believe that. But what is going to stop that is the relationship not being solid. And that relationship is between you as aldermen and the directors, and also between the municipalities. And if this is not approved, we are now at kind of a impasse, since Wheeling has already approved it. So as you discuss this, or as you think about this, please consider the fact that the other co-owner of the airport has reviewed these changes and said, okay, you know, we have that relationship with our directors on the airport board, we trust them, and we expect them to make the right decision and trust them to do so, whether it's now or 4 years in the future. So that's all I'd add, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone?
If I may.
Yes, sir.
Chairman Harris, you speak of the trustees of Wheeling already having approved this. Having said that, there's been no discussion between Wheeling and Prospect Heights. There actually should have been some discussion, and I believe that there should be some sort of a joint meeting to discuss it. You know, obviously it's a sticking point, and it's it's a hurdle we need to get over. So, you know, I would make that recommendation that we all get together and talk about it. I've talked to a couple of people on my own, but I think as the co-owners of the airport, we should have a group discussion of it. Doesn't need to be a giant formal fancy dinner, just getting together for a couple hours and talking. So that would be my suggestion.
And I think, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
one last comment, Chairman Harris brought up. You gotta remember at that meeting where you were appointed, we had people from the Wheeling side at that meeting advocating to eliminate the position that you got put into. That was a
Absolutely.
wholesale change to the agreement of the IGA right there on its own, on the floor of the meeting. So, I mean, this is not something that's in stone. I mean, this is something that ebbs and flows, and everybody should speak their part, because I want to know what they think. I'm glad to hear that that's what they thought. Same thing with us. We're saying this, and as partners, we have to get over disagreeing about items like this. And I don't hold that against them for saying that we shouldn't have a chairman. I thought it was kind of a crazy comment, but I don't hold it against them. So we're going to disagree on items. So I don't think disagreement is bad.
If this is the totality of our disagreement, I think we're in a pretty darn good spot.
So that concludes our presentation. Thank you all for listening and having faith in us. And this is one mild thing of what's to come. So it can be a win-win.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Let's back up.